Raghuramji, just couple of minutes. Trying
Yeah.
to go live on YouTube. Just couple of
Okay.
minutes.
It will be available on YouTube on my name, Enviraguram, or what is it? Or YB?
Raghuramji,
Your
it's IB YouTube channel. Regular thing.
Okay. On my name, Enviraguram, or where?
It is under the name of Mandukya Upanishads, Raghuramji.
Oh,
Like
okay.
you have your Narada Bhakti Sutras, everything. So it
Oh,
is, yes, on the YouTube main channel of Yog Bharti.
acha.
We
Okay.
are live now. Since last session,
Right.
we have been going live.
Yeah.
Shall we wait, Raghuramji, or shall we start? It's all done.
Okay. Then on YouTube it is there. We can
Yes.
start now because
Yes.
10:30. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. The main question Upanishad takes up, Mandukya Upanishad, the fundamental question that we have. The main question it takes up is the question called as the who am I? So, in fact, we have seen Taittiriya Upanishad also takes up that question. Same way, Mandukya Upanishad also takes up that question. Why this question of who am I comes into the picture is because if it is not there in your experience, you will not question it. What is not there in your experience, you don't question it. So we have somewhere behind it, we have this experience called as I. It is coming up. Because of that, we always, in all our sentences, in all our usage, in all our interaction with the world, we say that I have seen, I have done, I have it. So this I comes so common. And it has been introduced in our life right from the beginning. In the beginning, child does not know who is this I. The child, if he is hungry, little child, he says that Babu is hungry. He doesn't say I'm hungry. And then sometimes say, who is hungry? My tummy is hungry. He doesn't even identify with the tummy. Tummy is hungry. Because mother in the beginning teaches that hunger is there in the tummy. So I is not there. So in fact, that's why children also refer by their name rather than I, saying that he wants to sleep. So he says that gives his name, X wants to sleep. But later on, slowly, this question of I comes into the picture. It's not that somebody wants to sleep, but you want to sleep. So this I. So this I comes into the picture because of the experience we give it in the world outside about this experience of I. So it is part of our experience. Because it is part of our experience, therefore this I become prevalent throughout. Now this is where Upanishad comes out with this question saying that you say about this I so much, but have you known who is this I? We have never known, we have assumed. Or we have accepted somebody saying that somebody says that you are Panchakosha. We have memorized it and they say we are Panchakosha. And there also that we are not very sure what we are in the beginning. Annamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, pranamaya kosha. No. It is pranamaya kosha, then manomaya kosha. Vijnanamaya kosha comes first or anandamaya kosha. All these questions are there. And then, so therefore, basically what happens is that this experience is not there, therefore that we are confused about the whole thing. Whereas the Upanishad says that based on the experience, that this Upanishad evolves. Anubhavamiti Shastram. So therefore, this question of I comes, who is this I we are talking about? So one way that we understand this about I is by, there are several ways Upanishad deals with, but these two very prominent ways of looking at I, the first one is that Panchakosha in the Taitya Upanishad we have seen. I am the person who is behind active world that is there. You see, world is there outside and interacting with the world. I'm interacting with the world. So my senses, my sensor is the body, which is Annamaya Kosha. But senses do not function by themselves. Ishvara Prana. So like that, it goes on and on and on. Finally comes to Anandamaya Kosha. But Anandamaya is also one of the experiences that we have. I am behind it. It is my experience. So that I'm behind it. And that's where basically the way of consciousness or the Atman Brahman comes into the picture. Now, the second way that this inquiry goes on is in the form of our experience I. You look into your own experiences that you have in the day-to-day life, in normal day-to-day life, you have experiences. Can you derive who is this I in all these experiences that we have in our day-to-day life? Put every experience together. The experiences can be of three different dimensions. One is the experience of the nature of Kriya, that means doing an activity, etc., etc. Another is in the experience of the object, that's Vastu. And third is the experience in the case of the guna. That means it is this guna or that guna. So like that, there are three different ways that you look at it. Other than that, we don't have anything as our experience. Now, out of these experiences that you need to take out who is this I about. This is where look into your own experiences and try to understand it. Who is this I behind it? Yes, everywhere this I is there. Like, for example, I've seen it as blue sky or the white sheet, this, that. See, the color is there, guna is also there, and the object is there, vastu is there, and also experience is there. So therefore, this I is there behind everything. But then it is all the experiences. Then, but when we have to speak, when we have to communicate, we can communicate only with the help of words. There is nothing else that we can do it. I speak to you and you speak to me. When I speak, you understand and you relate to that. But what I speak is not important. What I try to communicate, the dheya, is something which is very important. The moment I say that you have mango, that means you remember mango, the fruit, or maybe at best matcha. So that is what is the only thing that you remember. That means it tries to communicate an object. So it is basically to communicate an object. Dheya is an object. I remember when I had the job, when Chief Minister was visiting our place and then lab was opening. And then, all the name boards are there in the lab in front of it. Chemistry lab or the metallurgy lab, this lab, that lab. And our chief was showing the board and said that that's metallurgy lab. Then the chief minister got irritated. He said, if that is metallurgy lab, what is this? I said, that's only the nameplate, but this is what is metallurgy lab. So don't show me the plate and say that it is metallurgy lab. So it indicates certain thing. So it is supposed to indicate. In one of the dramas that when we were childhood, we played, I remember that dialogue very well, is that he's introducing somebody, he's a very great professor. He said he's a very renowned professor. That alien, he says that if his name is renowned professor, I don't have any objection. But you think that he is a renowned professor, he doesn't even know anything. See, that renowned professor indicates certain things. It's not just a name. So there are indications, name, but then what happens is that name is something which is supposed to boundary something. Outside that, what does not fall, and what is that falls inside. So that's how we have given the names. So the name is given to us by us in the form of boundarying certain thing, indicating certain thing. Like for example, if I say solid, that solid is a boundary that you create. that what is liquid is not a solid. There are so many things which follow outside that. So this is how essentially that the moment that you give a name, it is boundaried. But then the boundary indicates to particular object that is there. There also there is a boundary where there is something which is outside the boundary. It clearly denies that which is outside the boundary. So this is what very clear, and because that dheya is the purpose that I am introducing, it is called as abhidheya. That means the dheya is something what we introduce. But what I give for that, what I give it to that is what is called as abhidhana. So abhidhana, abhideya, these two things are there about the world outside. Like for example, for everybody, the name that is there is abhidhana, but the person behind it is abhideya. So it indicates that particular person. So, and you have a very specific name so that it boundaries certain thing. So we are supposed to go by that name, but you know what happens a lot of times, people do not go by that name. They go by that family name, this, that, and all that. So in our office, that there was one person by name. Some was there, and then I went to his house. I said, I want to meet so and so. And first of all, the father so and so came. I said, no, not you. But then who is that? Your son. And first son came. No, no, not this. Second son. Because everybody carries the same name. But for them, there is individual names are there. Unfortunately, today what happened is that we have messed up with all these things. So name is very specific to see that it's boundaried. So we need to use that particular thing, which is the boundary. So abhidhana, abhideya, these are the two things that indicate about anything and everything in this world. Prayojakatvat, that means to say, why we give this, the prayojana is that it indicates a particular thing and its quality and its property. All these things, it indicates about that. So this is a wonderful way. But then what happens is that it says that everything in this world, can you give one word by which everything in this world, which includes everything? Now that's a big challenge. See, as I said, that name itself is something which separates out, which creates a boundary. But a boundaryless thing that I would like to give a name to it. But the moment I give a name, it becomes a boundary. You see, catch-22 situation. That means either you can't give a name, the moment you give a name, it boundary, but the boundary you create so that it will not give a name becomes a name. That's what is the question. He says that idam sarvam, everything is nothing but Om. He calls it as Om. Often people think that, did he call it as Om just because that is a Hindu, he is a Sanatan Dharmi, the idea? No, it is scientific because you have to have a logic in whatever that you say. So what is the logic behind it? He says that the names that we give to every object is based on any language that you take, whatever language that you speak. If it is in Kannada, you give a name. Telugu, you give a name. English, you give. Last time also I was saying that Starbucks is the name given to. That means you are not supposed to translate it. But in China, they translate that Starbucks. I had a hell of a time to find out that because my driver didn't know what I was talking about. Because he translated conveniently into. See, these days, these language fanatics have come to this particular translate everything into your language. We get into the problem. And I use it the way that it is. Don't worry about translating it. In translation, we lose the basic essence of it. Like, for example, Ayurveda, Veda means knowledge, and Ayu means health. Health knowledge, health manual is what is supposed Ayurveda. They translate it into Indian system of medicine. There is neither Indian nor system nor medicine there. Similarly, we have, something like how these translations. I always keep questioning this Kannada people. Why do they call it as Seeme Badnekai? It is neither Seema nor Badnekai, nothing in that. But I don't know why they call it. See, all these things, you call it as different name, it's fine. But why do you want to confuse this guy? So essentially what happens is that this idea of dhyaya and dana, they go together. You have to confront to that. Now, this way when we are doing it, everything you give one name. Now, what is that one name that we can give? Any language, any take, that the name that we give is the one that we communicate. And we communicate, only the means for communication is by talking. My words are the only means of communication. So I have to convert everything into the form of words. So that I give a name in the language or in the manner that I can communicate to the others. This communication is possible. Means that is possible for communication is what is called as language. So therefore, all these languages, there are umpteen number of languages in this whole planet Earth that we created so that we communicate. So that is the idea. But any language that you communicate, you have to use only one sensory organ. That's what is speech. There is no other sensory organ involved. So when you take this sensory organ called speech, any communication is possible from the point of where what you talk. And the beginning of all that what you talk is ah. Because below ah, you cannot produce any sound, you cannot communicate anything. See, the whole limitation to start with is that ah. Similarly, all the other letters are the articulation in between, and the last letter that you communicate and then you make sense and you understand, you memorize, pramana, vipare, vikalpa, all those things happen only in the form of makara. Because I is the mouth fully open, ma is the mouth fully closed. It's all in between this I and all the other sounds are there. So bridge these two things with middle sound O, just to jump over to the next letter, that's what is Aum. So therefore, it says that once you say Om, any language that you take, any idea that you take, it envelops all that which is going on, either in the form of karma, or in the form of guna, or in the form of vastu. All these three things are covered by Om. It's not just only a sound, it's not just only a thought, but it is all these things are involved. Please understand that our thought involves all these three aspects of it. Omityetadagum sarvam tasyopavyakhyanam. It may be from the past, present, and future. Bhutam bhavat bhavishyatiti sarvam iti omkarameva. Everything is Om. Now, what is Bhuta bhavat bhavishyatiti? That means to say that which spreads from the past, present to the future. What spreads past, present to the future? That means it does not undergo any change. Because the moment it changes, then it does not belong to one time to another time. Second time to third time, that means it changes. It should not change, it should continue. Is there something which cannot change, which continues? And that too from based on your own experience, because we are all looking at our own experience. Anubhavam is a shastram. There's one thing which is there, experience which is coming through all these stages, is something that is you. You are there. You are somebody in the past, you are there in the present, and you will be there in the future. You continue. And you continue to the future till where you are there. Otherwise, you don't even look for that. So that means to say you continue to be experiencing past, present, future. That means to say you transcend the time. And that you can see that when you are a child, that you were there. Childhood was there. And then you are adolescent. Adult is there. Then old age is there. All these things are on you, which is happening, and you are there behind it. Bhutam bhavat bhavishyatiti sarvamiti omkarameva. So that means to say all that is there in the form of world outside, but at the same time, together with that, the experience of past, present, future, which is beyond all, this also is home. So it is only one thing which can convey both subject and object together. Otherwise, what happens is when you talk of only object, object comes into the picture. When you come to the subject, subject alone comes into the picture. But now, Bhutam Bhavat Bhavishyatiti, by saying that, I am trying to cover the subject and the object, both these things together. So all these things is nothing but Om. So how beautifully that he tried to resolve this issue called as the all that whatever that is there in the manifested world is what is basically given. Idam sarvam, when he says that, is like he's showing that this what is there in front of you, or whatever that is there, what is there in the form of experience, whatever that you say as separately, all that idam sarvam, omkarameva, it is all nothing but om. If we had said that, then it would have completed there itself. It would have been okay, that's fine, he said everything. But then here, he creates a problem for us. तस्य उपव्याख्यानं भूतं भवत् भविष्यति इति सर्वमिति ओंकारमेव यच्च अन्यत्रिकालातीतं तदपि ओंकारमेव. See, everything is Om, but whatever there beyond is also Om. Now, this is where the mathematical question comes into the picture, saying that when I say everything, that means to say that what is there something which is left behind? Nothing should be left behind. When I say everything, that means everything is given. Like, you go for a party, feast, and then there's everything is served, but then sweet has not yet come, ice cream has not yet come, so many things have to come. So that means there's something more than that. Yeah, we know that because that we are used to that culture. But here he says that everything is home, but tadapi anyat trikalatītam, there is something which is beyond the three also there. Tadapi omkaramaiva, even that's also part of home. That means basically he supposes whatever that you hear Om, whatever they can articulate, what the verbalize in the form of, that's what is Om. But that which is beyond verbalization is also Om. That means there is something which is not available for verbal. That's also Om. But we need to understand one thing very important. That is, only of all these species, human being is the only species he communicates with the help of these sounds. That means there is some species which do not communicate. A stone cannot communicate, river cannot communicate, and all that. There are the species which do not communicate. We assume at least that they don't communicate, but they don't know. They may be communicating. But we are not concerned about that. So there is a silence where we don't communicate. But there is silence which is beyond the communication. There are two different silences that are there. One is the silences below the word start, and one is the silence after the words ends. That silence is something, tadapi omkarameva, that's also part of the Om. This is what makes this Mandukya Upanishad extraordinary, because that it has given this idea of now a few important points that let me bring about. Shankaracharya is extraordinary. He goes into the hair-splitting details of this particular Upanishad. Nice to understand about that. Om ityetat asya upavyakyanam. That's what Adi Shankaracharya says. Yadidham yadidam ardhajatam abhidana bhutam yasya abhidana avyatirekatvat abhidhanasya cha omkaravrittirekat omkaravev sarvam. Now what happens is abhidana, abhideya, it is not opposite each other, but they go together. So it's not avyatirekatvat, it's not any vyatirekatvat, but it is something which is communicating that. And this tasya, etasya, parapara brahma, then what happens is that purvameka abhigamyamiti. See, this is where he says that we should be able to adhigamya, that is, we go beyond that. It helps us to go. Omkara is that which goes, helps us to beyond that. That's what is the silence that he says. That fourth part is that adhigamya. Abhidana, Abhideya, Adhigamya, and that's what Omkara eva. Tasya etasya parapara brahma swarupasya aksharasya Om ityetadasya upavyakyanam. Brahma pratipatyupayatvat See, these are pratipatti, that means to say, talking about the Brahma pratipatti, that means after that, whatever that is comes out of Brahman, that means all this Jagat which comes out of Brahman, pratipatti upayatvat, Brahma samipatya. Talking about this, but again taking you closer to Brahman, and Vispashtam Prakatanam Upa Vyakhyanam. Now, this idea is to see that by giving this Om and telling that Anyatrikalatītam, he is saying that Brahma Pratipatyupayatvat, Brahma Samipatyat, but at the same time Adhigamya. That means once it can go beyond that. Prakathanam, Omkaram, Upavyakhyanam. So we are talking about this Om because that I want to give you something which is beyond the level of what is called as manifest. Now, very simple idea is that we all know that something exists without manifestation or manifestation but without expression. Like, for example, a seed is there, inside the seed, whole tree is there. And the tree gives an expression. When the seed breaks open, the seed tree comes out. And the tree does not come out from anywhere else. It is there in the form of Sukshma world, in the form of a seed. Similarly, a child is there in the mother's womb to start with, like a small little cell, a atom, and then it grows into a big human being. So the whole human being is there, and it is manifest, but only thing is unexpressed. It is in the form of that. So there is something which is manifest and which is unexpressed. So is there a way that I can communicate manifest, expressed, to the level of manifest, unexpressed, and to go to the source? So this is what is the idea of Omkara. That's the reason why that fourth step is important, because Aum is the name that we are given to something which is manifest, which is expressed outside. But behind that expression, whatever that is there, is also there part of Om. So that's why we need to have this Upavyakhyanam, that is going into the details of understanding what is the Om. Is very important. Omkare Kalatraya Parichedyam Yat Tadapi Omkarameva Ukta Nyayataha. Kalatraya Parichedyam, that which goes beyond the three kalas, Parichedyam, then only Omkara. That's how Omkara is substantiated here. Kala Parichedyam Avyakrutani Tadapi Omkarameva. Avyakrutani. Vyakruta means whatever that is manifest. Avyakruta, unmanifest, that is there, and even going into that also. Then now there is another very interesting point that he brings about Shankaracharya is, all right, it is four parts, Chatushpaditavyam Omkaram, that means there are four parts. You mean to say that, like, for example, you divide something into four parts. When you divide them, that means then the four. It is like the way that you take an apple and then cut into four pieces. He says, no, it is not like that. That's also another very interesting idea. He says, I am iti chashutpatena pravibhajyamanam pratyagatmataya abhinayena nirdashayati. So, it is not in the form of separation, these things. Sarvagam yetad brahma ayamatma brahma soyamatma chatushpat. Now, Sarvam Yetad Brahma, everything is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. The Atman, that means say, I am Atma. That means the Atma that is there. I am also supposed to be this Brahman. I am also this Brahman. It is this Rishi's experience. He is also Brahman. Then he is not different from that. So therefore, basically, I am Atma Brahma. So I am Atma Chatushpadita. Chatushpad. So I am Atma. Because that four padas are there in the manifest world outside, the same way I am also having these four padas within me. Now, in that sense, that looking into myself is looking into the society world outside. So that is the reason why the question of who am I? This inquiry of who am I is not separate from what is the universe, because whatever that is there inside is same as universe. So looking into myself is looking into the universe. So Soyam Atma Chatushpadam. It is what basically Yadadam Kinchit Vyaktam Avyaktam, whatever that is there is supposed to be in the Chatushpad. I am with Chatushpad Tatvena Pravivajyamanam Pratyagatmataya Abhinayeti Nirdishati. So that we understand this Omkara by understanding this Omkara. Now, what is this idea that it is not like the four parts of apple? That means when you have these four parts, actually it was there one, but for convenient, you make this into four parts, but each part is not connected with the other part. But here what happens is that each part is not connected with the other, but at the same time, they are connected also. There is something which is connected. And especially the fourth part of the apple that you cut seem to be something which is like the first part, second part, third part, fourth part. Is it that same way? It's not like that. It is something which is much complex than that you understand it. In fact, I see many times people divide that, a circle, they put it into four parts, and the first part, second part, third part, fourth part is the silence or consciousness that they say. Actually, that's a very wrong connotation, a wrong representation, because the fourth part is something which is embedded in all the parts. Not only embedded in the parts, all the parts. The other parts do not exist without this fourth part. Without the consciousness, the other parts do not exist. Like, for example, moment that you take out the prana from the sensory organ doesn't function. It's no more a sensory organ. From the eyes, the prana is gone away, then they are no more eyes. They are like a flesh, that's all. Similarly, ears, the moment that prana goes away, they are no more ears. So that means to say something prana is there, not like a separate thing, but as a part of it. Or they shine because of the prana itself. Imagine that from within you, earth, fire, water, all these things, they say, all right, I'll withdraw from these things. Who are you? You don't exist at all. You are existing because that all those things are there, because of these elements that are there. So elements are there within us, therefore that we are there. So the elements are the part of us. So it is like this that the fourth part is something which is actually creating, which is giving rise to first, second, third part, being along with that, existing with that. Now, a very close to that kind of a situation, we can see in the nature, what is that which can be something which is not excluded from the first two, three parts or something like that. He is the Akasha, is the space. Like, for example, in this room, there is a space. I bring about a couple of cupboard, this, that, and all the furniture and all these things. I fill it up with. Then where is the space? Is the space gone outside? Is the space say that, look, you brought all those things and you made me very congested? The space will not complain about that. Space will not go out. But space itself is there. But what is the space itself becomes the object, furniture that you brought about. Space itself becomes the sky. Space itself becomes the all these things. So everything becomes a space, so that space is not separately separates out. It is not something which is excluding of it. So space is something which is there. And now how to make use of the space, how to understand the space. If space itself is something which is such a neutral thing, it can take up anything, any shape, any position, without getting disturbed from whatever it is. Then where is the question of this? If space itself is something like that, subtler than the space is the consciousness we think of. How can consciousness be not existing where the object is there? Space is still existing where the cupboard is there. Same way consciousness is there where the human being is there. So that means this is the wakeful state is there, but together with that consciousness is still there. So whatever that you may be doing, you're angry, you're upset, you're disturbed, you're anything that is there, but the consciousness is still there behind it. You are there and you are that consciousness. So this is how essentially that it is not like this apple separated into four parts, but these are the four things that are there, which are there in our experience. Many times you get into that experience, which, well, when you come to the fourth state, we will look into that experience. So now what happens is that let's go by trying to understand, dividing this experience into various categories. The first category of all our experiences is the wakeful state experience. I'm wakeful and then I have experience. Jagarita sthana. The sthana is the position. The position it is a wakeful position, Jagarita sthana. And here, this is what is the third mantra which gives us Jagarita sthana Bahishprajnaha. Now, Jagrita Sthana is characterized by one very simple, important experience is that the prajna is outside. And he gives again, Shankaracharya gives Bahishprajnaha is basically Sarvatra Prajnaha Atma Vyatirekatvat. That means Atma Prajna is not there, but Sarvatra Prajna. It is there, Prajna is there every side, everywhere. Vyatirikte Vishaya Prajna Yasya cha Bahishprajna. So that means to say anything that you have experience of Jagarita Sthana, it's all about the world outside. It's nothing about this consciousness. It's all not about the self. It's not about you. It's all about everything in the world outside. So that is what basically Bahish Prajna is experience with the outside world. This is where Descartes also said that whatever you cognize exists. And that's basically this idea. He says that whatever you cognize that exists. But then Descartes stopped there at that level. He never said that who is cognizer? What about the idea of cognizer? Do you accept the cognizer? He never accepted it. Later on in he started looking at that. And Sigmund Freud took it up and said, I can explain about the cognizer. He is the mind. But actually, Indian philosophy says mind is also outside, because mind is also an instrument you cognize. We come to that. So essentially, what happens is that it is only one step that he is going ahead, first step that he's going ahead. Whatever that you cognize with the help of senses out, anything that is there, is about the world outside. It is called as Bashish Prajnaha. That means to say Prajna is outside, which means basically there are some other Prajnas that are also there. It did not deny the other Prajnas. Bahish Prajna, it's only one Prajna. If he had said, whatever that he experiences, the only Prajna is the only reality, then he is no different between this Upanishad sage and Descartes, Rene Descartes. He says that there is only Bahish Prajna. And he qualifies this Bahish Prajna, that means to say Prajna about the outside world. Bahish Prajna, Sapta Angaha, Ekonavimshati Mukha. Sapta Angas, 7 Angas that are there. And these Angas are basically the parts to which that you experience the world outside. These Angas, which are 7 Angas. And apart from that, we are Mukha. That means these sensory perceptions that we come across in the world outside. Ekonavimshati Mukha. And this is 19 mouths. Now, what is the 19 mouths he talks? Mukha means as a mouth. That means the world enters into you, the world responds to you, or the world means to you. Bahishprajna, that means to say outside world, means to you through these 19 senses. What are these 19 senses? Ekonavimshatimka. 5 jnanendriyas, sensory perceptions, and 5 karmendriyas. That means that you walk, talk at all, etc. I mean, all these things, since motor organs, these are the 5 motor organs where the functioning goes on. This is what is 5 plus 5, 10. And Pancha Indriyas. Indriyas also convey us whatever that is there. And these 5 Indriyas also communicate, we know about the world outside. Bahishprajnaha. And another thing is Manas, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. These are the four Antahkaranas. So that means there's a totally 19. Now, why he added these Antahkaranas, which is different from Descartes, is the idea that if you look at the content of the Antahkaranas, it is nothing but about the world outside. Whether your memory or your perception, anything is basically about the world outside. It's about the matter that is there in the world outside. So, which means basically whatever that goes on in my mind or in my memory, in my analysis, the same will go on in anybody else. Bahishprajnaha. And Jagrata Sthanaha, Bahishprajnaha, Saptangaha, Ekonomimstamaka, Sthula Bhuku. Sthula, the whole thing is nothing but gross. There is nothing which is subtle about these 19 mouths. These 19 senses, whatever that you transact, you interact, or you operate, these operations are only sthula, gross. Nothing which is subtle about these things. Sthula bhuku, that means to say now you nurture in the gross world. Often people call it book is experience, but I would call it as book, but more deeper meaning. The Shastra gives us is about the nourishment. Why he gives this idea of nourishment is that because the Stula world offers you so many things which are there. Some things which are nourishing you, some things do not nourish you. Something will be useful for you, something are not useful for you. Not only not useful, they can be poison for you. So therefore, basically that Sthula Bhuku, that means you look at that, carefully assess them, examine them, and see that it is useful for your nourishment. You take it if it is nourishment, otherwise leave it alone. Because you are the person who is supposed to nourish by that. It's not anybody else. Somebody else might say something, but don't go by that. You see that is it nourishing for you. Other person say it is very good for you, very good for this and all that. Well, fine, you might say it, but I have to find out for myself, is it good for me or not? Because it is nourishing for me or not. So there are so many avenues for you to show that what is nourishing for you. So many indications are there for you to see that what is nourishing for, if you are carefully watching that. The gross things you don't have to worry about it because nourishing that you take it, what is nourishing you throw it out. It's like the way that curry leaf that you get in the sambar, you just throw it out. You know that it is nourishing. It should be there in the sambar, but you throw it out. See, it's a very simple thing that you can keep it out. That is something that we can do it, but there are so many things which are there in the world outside. You have to be careful to see that whether you should take it or not. Is it nourishing for you or not? It's up to you. So once you go into that, how many different things are there in this world outside? It's not just only what you eat, but how you eat, what time you eat, how many times that you eat. So many factors are there which is about nourishing. So if you take only one simple thing like taking food, which is nourishing for the physical body, Annamaya Kosha, itself is so many things that are there. Books are written on the diet. Books are written on this. I don't know whether they included all the other things also, but they might include the quality of food. But they did not know quantity of food and the type of food and all that. Our people have said so many things about that. The simple food that you take. Not only that what kind of mental state that you take the food is also important. That's why before taking food, that there is Bhojana mantra, we chant about it. No, we don't know the meaning of mantra and all. Don't worry about it. Even just chanting itself is very important. Because while taking food, you can see that it gives you an idea of is it nourishing or not nourishing. My friend was saying that, yeah, whenever you go for some ceremony, some religious bucket, then we say Bhojan mantra. Should we say Bhojan mantra when we eat pizza? It's not a question of what you eat, but how you eat. It has a very important significance behind it. So therefore, basically, in fact, I've seen that in Bali, where we went, you give prasadam to the god. And Bali, every house is a temple. Beautiful way that you can see that. And every temple, house in front of it, actually, you know what, in Bali, they give so much of importance to the front entrance of the temple, which is like a main dwara in the temple, that they specially spend money to make that kind of a thing in front of the house. So first time when I went there, I was looking at every house seemed to be a temple. They said yes, they treat that house as a temple. And then as soon as you enter, first thing is that they, in a bowl, they would have kept the prasadam for the god. And I saw the prasadam there. I was really surprised because there is incense there, there's light there, and all those things are there. And nice, wonderful food is there. Together with that, they will also have a cigarette and matchbox. I said, wow, in God, God is also like that. If man can like cigarette, he will also like cigarette and matchbox. Because those people do not know that the evil effects of the smoking and all that. The part of their life. So they included that also as a part of offering to the God. So stula bhuku, gross thing that you take, whatever you take, you offer it to the God. So the same thing that you take it in such a way that stula bhuku, is it for you nourishing? You look into it. So this is very important for us to see that how we recognize this kind of a food. In fact, the food is supposed to be nourishment to us in such a way that ultimately take us towards the consciousness, which is supposed to be our nature. Any food that you take closer to the consciousness is supposed to be nourishing food. What food does not take you towards consciousness is not nourishing. It may have all the wonderful ingredients, it may have all supposed to be modern calories and modern definitions of right kind of food, etc., all those things. So my friend was telling me, the doctor told me that I should take only the light food. So therefore, ever since he said, I'm taking only light food. Light food is this way, that oil is lighter than water, therefore oil floats on the water. And oil, I put the bhaji, it floats on the oil, so it's a light food. So every day I take bhaji. Re Baba, it's not that definition. See properly that what is supposed to be taking you towards Brahmasthiti, Atmasthiti, consciousness. So that's why a food that takes you closer to consciousness, gives you respect for consciousness, is supposed to be the food which you take. And we see that consciousness, highest manifestation of consciousness is in the human being. Least manifestation of consciousness is the case of matter. Matter has no property of consciousness because one of the important ideas of consciousness is the degree of freedom. Matter does not have any degree of freedom at all. Whatever it is there, it is just there. In that also, solids is the least degree of freedom. Liquids are little more. Gases are much more higher degree of freedom. But then it is not yet the freedom of consciousness because one more consciousness freedom is self-growing property. And that's there in the case of plants. That's why in the evolution of consciousness, matter is the least, then comes plants. Plants have a self-growing property. They grow by themselves. You today put the seed in the soil, in 1 week you see a plant comes up with 4 leaves. 10 days later, 4 leaves becomes 8 leaves, becomes a couple of branches. See, it's growing on its own. That the self-growing property is there. That's what is the highest degree of consciousness. From the plant's level, when you come to the animal level, next degree of explosion of consciousness happens. And that's what is, the plants have no locomotion property, whereas animals have locomotion. They move from place to place. In the winter that you want to take the plant inside, you can't ask the plant, you come inside. But you don't have to tell to the cow, the cat or a dog, they'll come inside. So they are higher degree of consciousness because they have locomotion. Along with the attached locomotion that we have, simultaneous properties are there in that. And these properties of locomotion is survival. And that's what is the idea of fight or flight. Animals, insects, they are fight with you or they run away, flight. Both these properties are, plants cannot do that. Animals can do that, quite and quite. So that's what next degree of consciousness. And the highest degree of human consciousness, manifested consciousness, is human being. And that's what is organizational ability. Animals also, they have certain degree of manifestation of management, organization, but that's only inbuilt. It's not, they develop that. Human being has that development, which is supposed to be the degree of manifestation of organizational ability. That's what is the highest degree of manifestation in the world, where the highest, and that's what is human being. Like, for example, a bird can create a nest, and a beast can create a beehive. That's all. Beautiful beehive and nest, wonderful nest, because they're trained to do that. They develop themselves into that. But only thing is that they can only do that. Like, for example, bees cannot create a nest. Birds cannot create a pigeonhole. But human being is somebody who is beyond all these things. He can create both nests and pigeonholes. Look at Bangalore. How many pigeonholes are created? And the place where I live is another pigeonhole called as Prestige Falcon City. Big name, but all nothing but pigeonholes, where pigeons are kept inside. So that's how we are. Human being can create. There's no higher degree than human being manifested consciousness. He is the highest. So when man has to survive, consciousness has to survive, he goes to the least. That means to say where there is least, that's what is matter. But matter cannot sustain us. We require something which can sustain us, which is in the form of plant. So therefore, vegetarian food is the idea of respecting the consciousness. We respect the consciousness, that's why it is the vegetarian food. Beautiful way that our system has developed. Only when we exhaust vegetarian food, vegetables available, then you go to the non-vegetarian. Particularly in the earlier days, in the Vedic period, people living in Himalayas, etc., they didn't have vegetation all the time. 6 months a year, there used to be cold. Animals used to be there. So therefore, that they would eat animals, both in terms of Himalayas and also in the fish. In the coastal region, the form of fish. Whereas today, we have developed so much of science that we can have the vegetables anywhere in the cold region and also warm region. So therefore, there is no excuse for us not being vegetarian. It is respect to the consciousness that we give. There are several reasons why we become vegetarian, but this is one of the very important reasons, is that our respect for the consciousness, because we are consciousness, going towards consciousness is our journey. That's the reason why we become vegetarian. So therefore, this idea of Annamaya Kosha, physical body that we have, it needs nourishment. But nourishment I can give anything as nourishment. I mean, of course, caveman used to live with the meat. At that time, he did not know about all the vegetable development of vegetarianism. Therefore, we were living meat. But it does not mean that today also we should live on the meat. We have a freedom today. We have developed so much. How much that we have developed from the time of caveman. Thousands of years later, hundreds of thousands of years later, the agrarian revolution started. And after the agrarian revolution, for thousands of years, that we produced rice, barley, etc., in mass scale, so that all over the world that people could have it. How much development has taken place? Otherwise, rice and barley, you don't find it on the trees. You have to cultivate them. And further, how much of research must have gone, development has taken place today. That you go to a dosa place, there are 150 varieties of dosa. You don't get 150 varieties on the plant. It's a lot of research. So basically, vegetarianism is a result of the highest degree of research that man has gone through. It's not a primitive food. A lot of times people make fun of us saying that, are you still a vegetarian? Did you not accustom yourself non-vegetarian? All kinds of things. At least you should start with egg. I said, why egg? Egg is also non-vegetarian only. One person, he wanted to argue with me, saying that Why don't you eat egg? I said, chicken before or after it is chicken only. I don't want to eat it. Then he was thought he was very intelligent. He said, I have in my backyard chicken and then lays egg. And then the chicken doesn't want to sit on the egg and hatch it. That egg will not become a chicken. So what do you do with that egg? I thought he trapped me. I said, look, it's a chicken's egg, chicken's problem, not my problem. I don't have to take it. You see, leave it alone. This is how we become. See, and you have a choice. See, the choice is yours. You are there. And choice is element that you have is your consciousness. The consciousness has a choice. So you are that consciousness. You have the choice what to eat, what not to eat. You can choose your food. In fact, at that time when people did not know what is the extraordinary benefits of vegetarian food, our culture has developed almost like 150 generations before that we developed this vegetarian food. And that is today reflected in this culture, in this civilization. You can see that the people are softer and gentler because they eat vegetarian. They're not non-vegetarian. So these various qualities are there. In fact, today somebody was saying that the intelligent race in India, because of their food habit of vegetarianism, disciplined way. It's not a question of what kind of food that you eat, how much, how frequently. These are all the things which are important. Not only that, food is another extraordinary, wonderful thing to see strengthen you. And that's why we have evolved what is called as upavasa. Upavasa means basically the very meaning of upavasa is staying with yourself. Vasa means staying. Upa means self. Being with the self is called as upavasa. Unfortunately, when you translate it to English, it becomes fasting. In Sanskrit, it is slowing, not fasting. Going out is fasting. Going within is slowing. Upavasa is that. And whenever we are in the upavasa state, I'm in the class, I will talk to you later. So, being with yourself, that's what is basically the idea of. And every time that you do this, whenever we are in the upavasa state, actually what happens is that there's so much of desire to eat food, want to take food, but then no, today I'm doing upavasa, I control it. You are strengthening your willpower. Willpower is the one which controls that. So every time that you upavasa, you are closer to your consciousness, yourself. You are strengthening the self. That's why in this culture that we have introduced so many types of upavasa, so many types of vrata that is given. Any function that is there, you do the upavasa. Such a beautiful way it is given. And then you come out of that upavasa gently, calmly, equipped with this particular inner strengthening, and then you interact in the world outside. That's what is called as upahara. Upahara means actually you offer it to the soul now. By doing upavasa, you develop the soul, you strengthen the soul. Offer it, soul means you. And offer it to that is what is called as upahara. But look at that, upahara is called as breakfast. Fast itself is violent. Breakfast is doubly violent. What an unfortunate thing it is. Let's try to understand that. That means to say, basically, the gross world is there to see that how it can help you to go towards your consciousness, strengthen your consciousness. That's why it is the first thing which is developing into the consciousness. And that's what is basically a very simple thing like food when you take it outside world. I've just only said small little thing, but there are so many other things that are there. How do you take it? There's another very deep, important idea that is there involved in that. The body is the means for us to take towards spirituality. Imagine that if body were not to be there, where were you? Where is mind? Where is prana? Where is intellect? Nothing would exist without this body. So our people never look down upon this body. Not only that they looked at the body, but they also looked at its own dharma. They understood what is its dharma, cater to its dharma. Don't abuse that, but don't at the same time make use of it in such a way it takes you towards the dharmic journey towards the consciousness. That's why whenever you take food, think of only the consciousness. That's why whenever you take food, think of only positive ideas. Nice, wonderful group together that we take the food. The family, everybody sit together and have food so that there is a nice, wonderful harmony between the members in the family. So that what happens is that we try to contribute towards that spirituality just by simple thing. And that's what is sthula bhuku. Gross enjoyment is that. It's such an important thing. In fact, you know how beautiful that sometimes is sitting nice with a satsang and then enjoying that can give you elevation. Extraordinary. I used to work in earlier in small little village, and during those days, that was my very first appointment or something like that. Somebody else joined me. He was a little senior, but he was transferred. He came and joined me and said, "Come to my house, stay in our house itself." Because he was also a bachelor, I was a bachelor. Why not we stay together? The huge house, so we were staying together. Evening 5 o'clock, he would just come back from the work and then prepare nice, wonderful table, bath and all those things, and then freshly dressed. And they will keep the two glasses ready and the beer bottles, everything, and khara to munch. I would finish my work by 6 o'clock and then I would come home. He's sitting there, 5:30 main times, would sit there. When I come there, then only he will open the bottle. And he knows that I don't need drinks, I don't take drinks. So he would have kept some water for me. And then we would chit chat for about a couple of hours. Not one single day I told him, you should not drink. But then we used to have nice satsang together. It continued for about a few days. And then one day I was stuck up in my work. By the time I came back, it was 8:30 in the night. You know, village, there is no activity. 8:30 when I come home, I saw this man is still sitting there on the table, having the lamp and everything, waiting for me to come. He did not open the drinks. I said, "Arey, you should take drink, you know. I don't anyway join you for drinking. Why don't you drink?" Then he said, "No, no, without you I cannot drink." Then I made it a point to see that I do not delay it. 5:30 is it, the ceremony should not go late. So I make it a point to see that either 6:30 or 7 o'clock max, I would come back home. He would sit down and he would have a drink, I would have my water. Continued for about 3-4 months, and I was posted somewhere else. I went away. After 3 months, I came back to him. And he was my old friend, so therefore he came and took me around various projects, all the works that he introduced and all that. Evening 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I was telling him, so we need to go home now. He said, "What for?" He said, "What about the drink that you do?" I said, "No. Ever since you left, I left drinking because basically I don't have company." See, look at the simple thing that the satsang will take away, even without even asking, that takes away that kind of a thing. So that's the reason when we say that when you are taking food, have a pleasant attitude, pleasant idea. In fact, many times we say that before, while taking food, sing some beautiful song, shlokas, this, that, for Brahma and Mahabharata, makes the mind peaceful rather than spending your mind anyway. So this simple thing that is there can help you to see that it nourishes you, sthula bhuku. Gross nourishment is there in the case of what we take in the form of food. How you take, all these things are very important. Earlier, there was another very important concept that they had about the food in our culture itself. Before even, in fact, even my childhood days, that we didn't have matchboxes. We only had a lamp in the house. From that lamp, we used to lit the fire for everything, including the fire for kitchen and fire for bath, everything. And that lamp is called as Nanda Deepa. Nanda Deepa is And from that, we used to do that. Because Nandadepa is very sacred that we lit that, we use that lamp to lit the cooking fire. So naturally, the cooking is very auspicious, every day it is like a prasadam. So the very fact that you have given this idea, it has become very auspicious. We used to follow only after that matchboxes came. I remember during my early days of childhood, matchbox first came. And those matchboxes were, red-head matchboxes. And they would catch fire by themselves because of the heat. So we used to have a separate place where you keep all the matchboxes. Only later on, the blackhead, brownhead matches came, which are supposed to be do not, unless until you strike them on the rough surface, it will not fire. Many times even that also does not fire. But anyway, idea is that that is safety matches. So that's why even till today you see that on the matchbox, safety matches. Then one wonder why is it called a safety matches? Everything is safety match. I mean, the name has come from that time. So that means to say even the food that we take is sanctified by various ways, ideas that is given. So that what happens is it should be nourishing. The nourishing factor is something which is sthula bhuku, is what we take, it has to be nourishing. The kind of food that you take, the type of food that you take, the way that you prepare the food, all those things matter in your nourishing. Sthula bhuku, gross. But he says that it's not just only the food that you take, but all these things are helpful for our nourishment. What you see, what you hear, all these senses, ekona vimshati mukaha, 19 different senses that we are getting the information. It all has to be something which is, if it is nourishing, you take it. If it is not nourishing, you have a choice, you have a freedom, because you are the consciousness and you have the freedom whether to take it or not. People get into the gossip mood. Wow, when gossip, so many things that go on, I don't know how much is really nourishing, how much is not nourishing. But then we don't care for that. We spend hours together. Similarly, keep on arguing. For the sake of argument, whether it is nourishing or not, people don't look at it. So that's why Upanishad says, can you look at all the senses? Sthula bhuku, ekona vimshati mukaha. All those things are necessary for your nourishing. So we'll continue to understand about this wakeful state and the idea of nourishing as we go ahead in the next day's class. And then we'll go, once we finish the Sthula Bhuku, then we can go to the other Akara. Now you started only with Akara. Why is it called as Akara also? I will talk about it. But then we go to the next level. In fact, I would say that if only you understand this particular mantra, Sthula Bhuku Vaishvanaraha, if you understand that, probably you don't even have to go to Mandukya Upanishad. Your life itself will be taken in the right direction that we are taking. So that's what is the power of this Mandukya Upanishad, extraordinary degree of importance of Mandukya Upanishad. Let's try to understand that. I'll stop it here at this level today. We'll continue the discussion next week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Any questions, anything? You can open up and unmute and question.
Raghuramji, I have a